the actual stats they used were absolutely fraudulent. So they claimed that we were spreading 73% of the misinformation on vaccines in the entire social media landscape globally. And then Meta's own VP spoke up and they did a whole post and said, no, it was only 0.05% of vaccine-related content associated with any of our accounts or groups, and it wasn't even explicitly anti-vaccine content.
Today's episode, we have Mr. Sayer G, the controversial, conspiratorial individual. Today's going to feel like speaking to a friend. Why? Because you are a friend. We've known you for such a long time, and we've had paths on our warrior journey, but prior to that, we had paths of our friendship journey, and just coincidentally, we discovered our warriorhood along the way. Would you agree?
I would agree with you. And you guys were a very important piece in my development because you encouraged me to embrace sort of like a leap into the unknown. I don't know if I'll get into details of it, but you definitely helped me to grow as a human.
You've done the same thing for me, so I can relate to that.
And you do that for me.
See?
And I do that for you.
So it all works. We need to lift each other up and help. Sometimes we just need that little push.
And so we were in the bathtub. There's this famous place. It's like 100 years old in Miami Beach called the Bathhouse.
Everyone's like naked.
Yeah. and I didn't know you so well at the time. Yeah. And I challenged you.
There's truth to what you said. That I was in a stasis situation, especially in my marriage at the time.
You were married at the time.
Yeah, and I decided, you know what, for myself, for my kids, for my marriage, I'm just going to challenge myself and do the thing that I'm most scared of. But it wasn't until you said, you should just do it, Sarah. You love the divine feminine.
That's a good cop, bad. It was good cop, bad cop.
It's like...
He hit you with the bat, and I hugged you and loved on you. And just...
Great. That's why everyone should have a functional nuclear family at the least.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a mom and a dad to raise you.
You know, so I think you just hit the nail on the head. We need each other, don't we? As we try to be the best versions of ourselves and encounter challenges along the way, it's hard to do it alone, you know? I many times I felt like I could have crawled up in a ball and just hid from humanity. Yeah. And I know that I shouldn't. And
I've experienced that.
Right? Have you ever experienced that feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I feel mostly alone. I was just born that way, and I'm like existentialist philosophy major.
So take us back a little bit.
Let's introduce Sayer G first. Okay. Right, let's introduce him. You want to start with that?
You go with that. How do we introduce you?
Let me introduce you.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
I like to introduce you as the walking encyclopedia.
Okay.
Okay. The guy that knows absolutely everything around health.
Uncensored Google.
And the guy that I call before I call my pediatrician. Because you've got all the backup and the data, and you've been on this mission. You grew up sick, very sickly, so I can relate to that because I was very sickly growing up. And you figured out how to take your health from a 0 to complete health. And I did that as well, but of course, way later on my journey. Thank God I met you actually before I even started embarking on this, because you inspired me to not even go the medical route. I don't know if you realize this or not, but our conversation that day in our home on Pine Tree inspired me to do this the completely clean way. Yes.
Honored.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even know that.
Look at everything you've done, for even our own movement, because Layla was one, and you, David, you were one of the only people that saw how to help the grassroots grow into this national and international movement we have today of health freedom. You guys were the sponsors that helped us to do this work for free, essentially, because we would have gone under if you hadn't at least chipped in.
You first became well known for GreenMedInfo, right? Is that fair to say? So, GreenMedInfo.com. Was it a website always in its iteration, or was there a...
It was actually called Patient Heal Thyself before then, but because Jordan Rubin had a book by that name, and it could have also been understood as Patient Healthy Self, but then I changed it to GreenMedInfo.com. So.
And how many years ago did you start that project, and what were you doing at the time?
2007, and at the time I'd already been working at a health food store as an educator for about a decade. So I was gathering together all the research, which we just talked about, and then got it online. And then actually after social media, Web 2 started, it just supernovaed, with Facebook, millions of, views, and then top of Reddit. And suddenly, because people were writing about content, it just went afire. That's when, really the fifth estate emerged, which is independent, socially validated content, not just the gatekeepers, right?
So that was the model. So what is the content? What is the nature of the content in GreenMedInfo?
Well, initially it was just copy paste all these peer-reviewed studies on the science of natural healing.
Healing.
Yeah.
So when did it become a business where you were able to quit your job and dedicate yourself to this full time?
Good question. It was 2018, and I was able to use my free newsletter actually as a means to make a living, because you'd have people that would put together ebooks into a bundle, $39, and then you get 50% commission. So it was such a nice thing. It's like people want this information, and then we are able to, basically fund, our activism. So that, and then docuseries and summits started, and that was amazing. Millions would watch like Truth About Cancer, Truth About Vaccines, and then it was also something that generated a lot of support. So then you could actually just do the work you love to do. So it was affiliate marketing, basically, is how you were getting a lot of your income. Yeah.
And around the same time you started getting on the radar. So I don't understand the Facebook part. Were you advertising on Facebook? Were you posting on Facebook?
Yeah, just posting. Yeah. So that was the cool thing back then. There was no monetization of even Facebook yet. So they allowed the democratic algorithms to run free, and our content was super viral. We had 550,000 fans. But then when in 2020 they started to deplatform certain people on the Disinfozen list, we got erased.
We're going to get to that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So 550,000 subscribers on Facebook, or followers on Facebook, whatever terminology they're using.
Yeah, Instagram. You had a huge Instagram following too, right?
I had, a pretty big GreenMedInfo page, a personal page, 4 of them actually on my 4th Instagram account. So we had about 2 million followers across all social media.
All platforms.
Yeah, within about a year. It took them about a year to do that.
But I remember you had a brand new one that you were building, and you were building it pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
You were at a couple 100,000, right?
Yeah,
Are you on X now?
I had one account on X that I rebooted about a year ago. It was just my personal, because they took GreenMedInfo out, and that one has gone supernova now,
Good.
We have had Elon repost my content. And then,
oh, yeah, that's right. You're up to like 18 million.
That was on that one post the other day. But Vigilant Fox has been very supportive. He's one of the best content creators as far as, health freedom related and truthful content, which in journalism is like, you never see it, well, that's changing now, and so he's helped me too by sharing my work, and then also asking people to, subscribe to me as a journalist, because that's one of the avatars that I have as I'm a journalist.
Sure. I think we could all agree with that. So if we can get a little personal, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Things are going great. You have all these subscribers, you're making money. Was it like a rug pull, and it was like kind of like a light switch, and all of a sudden everything went dark?
Well, it was really because in 2020, 2019 is when Google pulled the rug on all natural health and basically censored the world. So, you could search turmeric before, and we'd been, top results on page 1. Now you can never find us again, even though we have 3,500 studies on turmeric's health benefits on just one page on our site. You'd think that if you're looking for turmeric research, you'd find us. Instead, you find, GlaxoSmithKline and, Kaiser Permanente and all these other, conventional gatekeepers of health information. But after that is when they deployed this psychopathic Disinfozen campaign by this fake nonprofit out of the UK.
Well, let's get to that. I want to get more into, you suffered hardship even before that happened. Like, your life changed dramatically, right?
So I've always felt very protected somehow, given the work I've done. because I know I've been targeted and tracked, and now we have all the evidence. They're all declassified or from lawsuits, and the Twitter and Facebook files show that they targeted me specifically with basically intelligence type of surveillance, and
our own government was going after you, and other governments as well were going.
All because you're offering an alternative perspective, which we should all have freedom of choice, right?
In this country.
You're right. That's the beauty and the craziness of the scenario. I'm like, how did I end up becoming a centerpiece target of this global agenda, with militaries and world governments at their behest, so they can just attack me as an individual? I was insane. I couldn't believe what was going on.
Let's talk about the first major blow, which was probably, do you think the most major one was being on the Disinformation Dozen?
So when was the Disinformation Dozen? And tell us what that was.
That was in May of, what was it? I should know the details. I think
20 or 21.
I think it was.
So the top 12 spreaders of misinformation to the detriment of all humanity. You are designated as one of these top 12 in the world.
But it was done in such a way that the actual stats they used were absolutely fraudulent. So they claimed that, Bobby, RFK Jr., Mercola, Sherry Tenpenny, myself, and a few others, that we were spreading 73% of the misinformation on vaccines in the entire social media landscape globally. And then Meta's own VP spoke up, and they did a whole post and said, no, it was only 0.05% of vaccine-related content associated with any of our accounts or groups. And it wasn't even explicitly anti-vaccine content. They couldn't even pin that on us. 1,300-fold margin of error. No, 1,300 fold, so that's an astronomical lie that they put out there.
And I'm seeing this, and that can't even be possible, because he was deplatformed. He has no following anyway. How is he doing this?
That's what they tried to do, is they tried to deplatform.
But I think they deplatformed you before.
Well, they did start initially, right? They've been trying to take us out by preventing us from freely sending messages to people that subscribe to us.
Here's a question for you. Who's writing your story, you or some random dude on the internet? If you're sick of Google, gossip blogs, or that one angry ex controlling how the world sees you, it's time to do something about it. Erase.com helps you take back your narrative by removing harmful content, outdated info, and straight-up lies from search engines. Your past shouldn't be a permanent headline. Erase.com gives you the reset button that the internet forgot to include. So don't let the web define you. Go to erase.com, use code ERASED for 10% off, and start owning your story today. Links in the description. Click it. Your future self will thank you.
People have no idea, outside of watching what they did to Trump, the kind of things that they are doing to and have done to attack citizens for being just human, for wanting to just be
wanting to share the other side.
Yeah.
And really save children, because that's your mission. You're God-centric, focused on doing the right thing, and yet they don't want the information to be heard.
So it was a relatively new relationship that you got into, and next thing you know, you're in a world of shit together, and you really remain. I know that you remained super committed to that relationship. She wasn't able to travel, right? And there was a lot of disruption to your own family. Can you share with us how dark did things get?
Well, that's the beauty of true love and friendship, because, friendship comes from the Latin word frio, which means free love. It's like non-attached love, because I've been in the deep, dark, romantic wormholes of relationships where it's you have these trauma bonds and eroticized wounds, and you think that person's going to complete the other half of you. And you guys are such great role models, because I actually was in a relationship like I describe, and it was because you guys encouraged me to do the work that I grew beyond that relationship.
We've broken up many, many marriages.
We were trauma bonded.
That's right.
We were very much trauma bonded, and we did the work, and it actually helped us get together.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's we tell people that you do the work, you're either going to come closer, or you're going to decide it's not working. Either way, you're going to get some light.
Totally.
And when we did our, spiritual journey and our healing, we're we are soulmates, and we are going to actually get closer from this.
See that.
And it's remarkable we even worked it out, because, you don't get that clarity until many years later. Like, wow, I was pretty messed up when we met.
We were messed up.
You don't get biceps like that without doing the work.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I see in you guys, you have the divine feminine and masculine, it's like, that's what I have in my relationship. And, it also speaks to this imago therapy stuff that you also introduced me to, because I, ended up going to that one retreat. But, actually, it was David Data's retreat, but it's still related. Anyway, so you have these parental archetypes, and when you meet your perfect match, it is like love at first sight, but it's also because they're a representation of still unresolved, unhealed parts of your parents. Mm-hmm. And that shit comes up, and it's just after the honeymoon. Yeah. Oh my God, if you're committed, then it's transformed into the most beautiful alchemy. It's like turned into gold.
So you never ever questioned, and she never questioned your relationship and your connection for a moment?
Oh no. With the powers that be messing with us and doing things like taking over our phones and trying to manipulate our travel way to be together and being under constant law for assault, I just am so proud of us, because I don't know.
Could have broken you up.
Oh, God, yeah.
She could have been like, this guy's ruining my life.
Yeah.
And you could have been like, this is ruining my life. I'm out.
Exactly. But it was the opposite. I think because we were so deeply in that, when you are committed at that level, it's almost like God is now taking over. You're just like, I'm not questioning anymore that I'm here. I'm all in, but we're just going to have to work through it together.
How did you know that they took over your phones?
Oh, there were a number of anomalies. I also have people that, work in the space of, intelligence now, because there's some good ones. And it's nice to have the light workers on my side. And some of it's easy to analyze. You can see that there's been, violation of my digital privacy and things like that. But when we live in an era where if you're that big of a target, these big tech companies are colluding with world governments. That's why Elon shared the post and it had 20 million views. As I was just reporting on how the UK government is requiring Apple give up access to all their encrypted data from every single person in the world, every nation. That's how egregious the UK online safety bill is. In fact, Elon was suggesting that Keir Starmer needs to address that immediately. And it was a moment recently in the news cycle where it seemed like they were going to actually back off of this insane bill. But this is what we're up against. They're really trying to take over all privacy. I mean, they can dox you. I was doxed in this whole situation too. I mean, that's serious stuff, where if you're a target and they release your private details of where you live, they mean to do harm to you.
They did that to us.
They've done that to me too. Wow, it's amazing.
They put our address for every, right there, front page. I mean, we got it removed, but you never remove it completely.
No, that's right.
And they do all that stuff on purpose.
Yeah. It's a violent tactic. It's definitely black operations.
So at the moment, you're on an upswing. Would you say?
I would say so. Yeah, because I feel like I have representation in my own government, for one, and that they're on my side. In fact, they've been reprimanding the UK. They've been reprimanding and even suing this organization called CCDH, and the founder, Imran Ahmed, thinks he's coming to Miami May 14th to accept $300,000 in cash, as well as a prestigious award from the Elevate Prize Foundation for all his service to humanity. And now they're going to make him even more famous and more global, they think. I have a petition set up, which I hope you can link to, that says, please don't let this man come into my town who's been utilizing military assets, intelligence to target me and my loved ones. And he's the guy that put Bobby on a hit list, basically, and that created the Disinfozen list. He's coming to Miami. That he thinks he can do that.
We need to have a demonstration.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that. In fact, we have some people who volunteered to help organize that.
I would show up.
Thank you.
I would show up too.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. I don't mean this man harm at all, because I am someone who essentially is very forgiving and I believe in redemption. But I'm not going to let this person, push a blade into my heart or for someone I love without doing something about it.
So let's talk spiritually, since you're going there. How did you get to this point of compassion balanced with but I'm not going to allow you to roll all over me. That doesn't happen. You're not born with that. I think most people are not. When did you get that clarity on that?
I guess because I realized I have created a lot of karma, and that there's things that I'm resolving from my childhood. Like, I was basically abused by the medical system, and my own parents handed me off to that system, not knowing better.
Tell us about that.
Well, because my dad and mom were more conventional, and so they thought, my dad's a toxicologist, pharmacologist, so, allopathic medicine, just what you do. So I had to kind of learn to forgive him for that, and we're very close.
You were sick? I don't know this.
Oh, I was born a bronchial asthmatic infant, and it turns out that they had to constantly inject me with things like epinephrine to keep me alive. So I used to almost die constantly from suffocation. So it's created this thing in me where I also I'm here to fight. I'm a survivor, and I get so upset by the things that happen to me that, try to even come close to my daughters, right? If I wasn't a parent, I don't know that I would be doing this work the way I am. But because I experienced that, there's a part of me that is just intense. Like, I will fight to the end. And I have created enemies who do not like people like me standing up for my rights or advocating for the voiceless, right? And the vulnerable like you. So you and we've gone up against the same powers, and we've risked everything. We're really willing to die. They'd certainly destroyed my image internationally, saying I'm a killer. You go to Wikipedia and see what it says. It's terrible,
Did you ever have like this low moment of just like, like, why is this happening to me? I mean, and how did you come out of that?
That's a good question. Wow. Yeah, actually on some level.
International news.
Yeah. In fact, if you still Google Disinfozen, there's 84,000 results, and every mainstream media organization on the planet just parroted this complete lie. It was such an education.
What did you feel when you first heard that? How did you feel about it?
I was a bit stunned by it, but I was also, in a way, to be quite honest, I was on some level like honored by it, Yeah.
We were calling you a superhero.
Well, I mean, to be on a list with Bobby alone is a pretty big deal. Like, I'm proud of my work with him and my association and what we've accomplished. And, and again, you're the Baker's Disinfozen because of what I found out, through David, that you were up against. Like, they were going to try to put you in jail.
If there were 13, if it was a Baker's dozen, she would have been on there.
That's what I mean. Yes. So it was amazing that everything.
And half my face.
Yeah, you were there holding space. You were so supportive, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That is so. We can't do this alone.
We can't do it alone. That's why, I can imagine that you and your fiance were really holding each other
so strong,
because it's to try and go through that alone is difficult.
She is so amazing, and I cannot wait, because she's actually now in a phase of just reclaiming herself as well and sharing the incredible work that she's been doing this whole time, and we're about to launch a series called Unite We Rise, and it's just all featuring these amazing people in this space of ours that have solutions that are inspiring. That's the work that we're here to do, but this is why they attacked us. They just couldn't allow us to be where we are now. And we won, actually. I really feel that we won. The grassroots actually won.
Winning.
Yeah, winning. We're winning.
We're winning.
We're winning, meaning we have 1,000
and a lot of
people.
Stuff to overturn.
I guess you're right, but I guess I'm sort of optimistic in the sense that I do think that we have this spiritual support that's, no matter if I'm here physically or not, we got ourselves at least to the point where I think we honestly, together, this world averted World War III. And there may still be chances of it flaring up, but I mean, that was what was on the line here.
So you were you sickly as a child growing up?
Yeah, I was just allergic to cow's milk, and I only discovered that when I was 17, and I never needed an inhaler again. I was able to just completely reclaim my health. So that was a big wake-up moment, that something so simple as just toxic cow's milk, the kind that is toxic, was causing me to be sick.
That started your journey of just natural remedies for your own personal discovery.
100%.
And then you somehow had a mission. I need to bring this to the world. People need to know about this.
Yeah.
Is that how it played out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm somewhat evangelical. I want to spread the good news. When I have something, I'm a sharing person, and it's almost like an irrepressible thing for me. So when I found the mechanism, which first was my site, and then with social media, everything just became such an equal playing field. I think I was checking out, I don't know if it was BBC or CNN. On X, they have something like 60 million followers, but they have like 100 actual likes on their posts. And I don't think that's because the algorithm is disproportionately reducing theirs. It's because their content isn't interesting. It sucks. It's propaganda. They even put a paywall in front of it. And all of our content is getting 1,000 times more views. And there's a billion other people that have something to say that's more valuable than the mainstream gatekeepers that have been weaponizing this whole medical system against us. So it's just amazing to observe now that Elon reclaimed X, for example, and even after Zuckerberg kissed the ring of the king at Mar-a-Lago overnight, right? It's just amazing. Things are shifting.
So if you can go back to your high school reunion, would anybody be surprised about Sergey's journey in life?
I think so, because I was pretty just socially awkward, not very I was not yet fully on my mission.
You were as cool as you are now?
No, I was not that cool. Yeah, I was just a depressed, sick kid that just didn't really have much that excited me about life, really. So it wasn't until college that I just completely flowered, and met all these amazing people and experimented with a lot of mind expanding entheogens and just the things that happen when you socialize in that way. It was amazing.
Would you have done anything differently? Like if you were to go back and rewrite your past, would you have done anything differently?
Oh, I think so, because like I said, I have forgiveness for even the people that have tried to take me out, because I realized that maybe in past lives, for example, I was the persecutor. I don't know why I had to suffer the way I did, but I imagine being tortured medically, there have been lifetimes where maybe I was on the other side of that. So I actually came to that realization so that there is no victim either. So if I'm at that level where I take full responsibility, then that takes the charge away at the very least. Because when you're persecuted, that doesn't feel very good. Yeah. But if they're just doing their thing and it's just an opportunity for me to grow and say no and all those great things, then they're not my enemy. And actually, I don't want Imran, Ahmed, or the UK government to be my enemy. In fact, we created the Global Wellness Forum as a way to open up an avenue for peace and for we just want to coexist and work with countries so that we can respect everyone's sovereignty. And we want to have a global system where you can just travel, jump on a plane anytime and feel like there's, beauty everywhere. That's actually what I'm here to do. But don't try taking me out or my loved ones and expect me to sit there and not fight. I'm compassionate, but I'm also ruthless as well.
So you were able to use this thing that happened to you, being censored, being blocked, being deemed, a bad person, and turn some good things into it. Tell us about the nonprofit, the Global Forum that you've got going on, and your mission and what you're trying to do.
I'm grateful for the light workers in my life, like Dr. Ed Group, and then Marla Maples. And we just kind of got together one day, and we have so much love and respect for each other that we just like hanging out with each other anyway. So we decided, all right, this is going to be our little executive team. It's nice and simple. And around us, we're going to invite all the most amazing, beautiful people, the gifted people in our movement, so we can support them. And together, that's why we are a movement. That's all we've ever done for each other. We have our little silos, though, because there's a lot of reasons for that. The military has also, and different interests, they've astroturfed and infiltrated our movement. So there's a lot of distrust, and there's been attempts to try to take out organizations, but we're here to protect them. We know who these people are, and we've learned who are actually our people. So we're here to basically just do what makes sense for, Americans who care about their bodies, their children.
What's the name of it?
It's called the Global Wellness Forum.
And how does somebody find out more information?
GlobalWellnessForum.org.
Okay.
And it's open to the public to participate in. We have a number of legislative advocacies, from the fluoride advocacy here in the state of Florida, which will go national. And then also the geoengineering. We're big advocates of regenerative agriculture. It's just pretty much everything the MAHA movement stands for. We're actually putting a lot of this into action, doing white papers. So it's a coalition and think tank, essentially.
Did you ever have financial issues along the way?
Oh, yeah. Huge financial issues. You know, I did very good in Bitcoin. You know, I believed in it from a sovereignty perspective. A big fan of Andreas Antonopoulos, who himself has no money because all he did was, he's the Bitcoin Jesus, to tell everyone about how amazing it is. For solutions like, you know, transparency and recording the truth. You know, right now, if you go to Wayback Machine, you can't even access a lot of the information you should. But you could use a blockchain to forever encode the truth, almost like the Akashic record, into a public ledger that will keep the history of our interactions, transactions, information forever. Not the victors writing history and eliminating the vanquished. It's literally the truth machine, and will give us sanity moving into the future. That's Bitcoin. But I ended up buying a few of them, and I told others to do it.
What was your average price in the?
About 3,000.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, because some people are like $90, right?
Wow. Sure.
Yes. So at one point in my life, I was like, before the COVID pandemic, if you will, in 2019, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to retire for a little bit here. I have enough where I can just write. I can celebrate, enjoy my life. And that's when everything just hit the fan. And so after that, it took millions of dollars to try to maintain our advocacy, from Stand for Health Freedom to GreenMedInfo to Unite.live, to try to replatform ourselves, which took $1 million, to the point of absolute debt. Then lawfare kicks in. And then you can imagine it's just been a nightmare. But I can tell you that what we're seeing in this country is so much enthusiasm and support for the work that we've been doing for all these years, that suddenly, like, they're knocking down my door trying to give me money and support. And that's
good.
Yeah, I need it. I need to be able to defend myself, my people, our movement, and it's actually happening. So, you know, because that's how they try to take you out. You know, they want to really, you know, the economic.
Financially handicap you.
Do you have trust issues?
Trust issues. I am more trusting now, I think, than ever.
How did that happen?
You know, because I think I'm becoming more of a humanitarian. One of the beautiful things about working with Bobby in the campaign is I ended up striking up an incredible friendship with Dennis Kucinich. And he's a hugely, like, bipartisan politician who really isn't like a politician. He just says, he talked to anybody who will talk peace or try to, you know, move forward on a positive thing for the American people. And that was the role model for me of why, okay, maybe I could actually start participating in politics a little, where your integrity is what makes you powerful. That's all you have. And that's why people trust you. And that's why we're all in this movement, you know, and we have our own people now. Look at Tulsi. She was being targeted as a terrorist, and now she's the director of intelligence.
That's amazing, right?
It's amazing.
It's so incredible.
But when people are infiltrating the, you know, the campaign and all that,
yeah.
I mean, I think I might, you know, not be so trusting of people. That's just how I would be. But you actually are more trusting. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I guess I have to say that.
I mean, you had your moments. You were at one point in time, you didn't trust anybody or anything.
Oh, you're right.
You know, you were a little bit like...
I was even warning you, be careful.
Even your shadow was, you know, suspicious.
Yeah.
So you somehow overcame that.
Yeah, you're right. I actually did it.
Went through a phase, I think.
I wanted to really help Bobby, and I wanted to help this country, and I decided to bury the hatchet and even talk man-to-man with some of the people previously that I thought were controlled opposition, to realize that, yeah, they're probably controlled in ways, but they're first and foremost humans. And actually, that's what makes me trust them, is that anyone can do the right thing. As long as they're not a monster or some type of, like, you know, reptilian shapeshifter in human form. I think now I've come and I've seen those very people that I thought were just here to take out the movement actually help the movement more than some of the people that's all they're here to do. So it's like, it's not black and white anymore. I think every human's a mixed object, so that That way we can't dehumanize each other. You said that earlier. That's their primary agenda.
Yes.
Divide and conquer, make us not trust each other and not forgive each other. And if you don't forgive someone, then you hold that anger. So you're the one who's really got to carry that forever.
Yeah.
So that's a superpower, I think.
Would you have any issues with family relationships? I know in our experience, we lost certain family members and friends because they just didn't want to associate with us because of, what we, simply for our beliefs or whatever. Did any of that happen to you?
Yeah, the thing about me is I haven't really been very close to family because of my work. I've spent so much time that it's a bit selfish and it's a bit selfless because the work I do is to help other people. I just not blood. So
Pre-controversy. You just
even pre-controversy, I really have always lived my own life like with just my own soul group, whoever I'm working with. It's just an interesting thing that I've always been rather isolated. But I have found out retrospectively that some people in my family who I'm like, I love my family. I always connect with them. They're just like canceled me. They have some weird opinion about me because I guess I stood up against the vaccine agenda. They got the vaccine. But when you're fighting existentially for your life and you're an activist, it is difficult sometimes. You look back and you're like, not a normal dad. Like, I spend a good amount of time with my children, but I wish that I could get some of those years back. I do regret that.
Well, you're a superhero, basically,
Yeah.
It's hard to be a normal human being when, you're actually a superhero.
Well, I think we all are. We all embody the avatar of some type of superhero with our gifts. But it is true. I had a therapist who said that, if you're always in that avatar, you're going to burn yourself out. And I do love being in that avatar where I'm doing like 30 things at once and I'm seeing things, work out and connecting with thousands of people. I mean, Bobby's like that, by the way. This guy literally is like some type of, he's like got about 10,000 relationships. And he literally, we all feel connected to him very personally. And I just can't believe it. He's really keeps up with them. I don't know how he does it.
He does.
How does he sleep?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what he's going to do.
I know. Even today, he was sitting by Trump and just removed the mandate for education, which you are a big part of. So this is amazing.
I have goosebumps just thinking about all the changes that are going to happen. I mean, even the last 3 weeks, every day has been something incredible.
Absolutely. Huge.
So you clearly got a target on your back because you're spreading a lot of information that the powers that be would prefer that doesn't get disseminated.
But that's why I'm so grateful that we have our people in the government now that are undoing some of that.
One thing that I admire about you is, you're very deeply knowledgeable on a lot of subjects, and you see something and you can actually predict the dire consequences of if this thing actually gets played out all the way.
Yeah.
And do you have trouble sleeping at night?
Yeah. Yes. And there's reasons for that, because even in my past relationship, you knew Kelly, of course. We had our kids.
Another member of the Disinformation.
She deserves respect for that.
I'm proud of it. I think personally, we know closely, I don't know, 40 to 50% of the Disinformation.
You do.
I know most of it.
We know a lot of it.
Well, listen, I pray that the new administration formally acknowledges that we were patriots, that we stood up and we were vocal and we were the first to really warn people.
Awesome.
Oh,
I would love that. But my own country shouldn't play.
I remember that in the beginning I was freaked out. It took me 30 days to figure it out. But we went out to have lunch one day and I'm like crying, like we're all gonna die.
Oh.
But I didn't know. I was completely clueless.
We're spraying our packages with hydrogen peroxide.
Yeah, spraying any package that came in. But I will say, after 30 days, I was out of it.
That's quick.
But then you were angry.
Then I got angry at him because he hadn't figured it out.
I was behind her and she's like, you have your head up your ass. Don't you see what's going on? That's why, that's sort of like the partial purpose of Erased, this podcast, is to give people a voice and hope and share their stories, share their journeys. I really like where you're going with this. I think all the people that actually spoke up and stood up in the face of adversity from everybody around them, including their families, should get some sort of medal. We went through a lot.
But also, it shows, it at least lets the viewer see that there is another side. Like you might be going through what feels like the darkest point of your life, but the other side is beautiful and shiny. You just need to get through it.
Absolutely.
And however you get through it, whether it's, a loved one that helps you, or praying or meditating or working out, or, screaming, at strangers walking down the street with masks like I used to do.
Well, I never went there, but I definitely thought about it.
But there's
retail workers.
Well,
I had a few interactions like that.
Or the police trying to arrest me for.
In Tulum, you mean, or trying to? You guys remember when you and Kelly went right through the line and got into you tried to get in.
No, it was here in Miami where it was Father's Day and they wouldn't let our party sit together because we were 7.
Oh, okay.
So we were one more than 6. And I'm like, I'll put my baby on my lap. This is Father's Day.
The 7th was a baby.
You want me to put my baby at the table next door, or like? And that was the whole thing. And the police came, but I'm so glad that's behind us.
Actually, we were at this place, and we took bets at the table. Are we going to get kicked out or not? And we voted.
What's the place?
I don't want to say the name.
We should say the name.
Well, they're not we can. They're not in business anymore. This is Shuckers, the place on the water.
Okay.
Yeah, glad they're not in business anymore.
Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah, culturally, there was something off about this place. They were over enforcing this stupid policy. They didn't allow us to sit. Our party is 7.
Well, first of all, you guys, I think it was you guys energetically that set it up, because I didn't know that they had a bet. Before we walked into the restaurant, that if they were going to get kicked out because of me.
Oh, there was money on the line.
Yes, there was money on the line. And half of them said,
we're going to get kicked out.
We're going to get kicked out. And the other half was like, no, it's Father's Day. She's going to be cool. So I feel like energetically they set me up.
They did call the police. They did call the police, and we were asked to leave. But on the bright side, we got free appetizers because we didn't pay for anything.
Yeah, that's right. They let us have the appetizers.
Well, those are the things that make a difference. Those little micro events of asserting your rights. So
I was protecting my husband because he deserved to have his loved ones by his side for Father's Day, not to have one of us sitting at another table. So I did it for you.
I appreciate it.
That's love.
Thank you. That is
exactly.
Love. Yes.
I mean, we went through many of those experiences through that window, and it was actually my kids that were like trying to pull me back. They couldn't handle the trying to create opposition to that agenda, but you got to do it as a parent. Even though it's painful
show them
sometimes. Yeah, you just don't let people.
You have to show them.
Yeah, it's your body.
I remember my 9-year-old saying to me, like, Mom, why is the media outside? What did you do? And I had to explain it to her, and she understood. She goes, okay, so you're fighting for us. I'm like, yes, 100%. And we will always fight for you. That's our job. Our job is to fight for you.
That's it.
No matter how hard it hurts or how many punches you have to take. And it's also leading by example to let them know that just because the media is camped outside, just because parents are leaving, her friends were leaving, her teachers were quitting, it doesn't mean you roll over and say, okay, you won.
100%.
And it is a good lesson for our kids to learn. So thank you for being the fighter that you are. Thank you. I remember, actually, I think I told you guys during that time, you all should have like capes drawn on, like a cartoon figure of being superheroes, because that's really what you guys were. I mean, all of you were out there sharing information with the world, and one child saved from your information, whether it's, instead of having their tonsils removed or whatever, instead of getting the vaccines, the information you're sharing is allowing parents to make an informed decision that could save their child's life. That's the definition of a superhero. And not being afraid to do it.
I appreciate that. It didn't feel like I was being a superhero at the time. It felt like I could not do it. Just like, when you stood up, David. And I think that's what's happening, is that people that just now have boundaries again. We recognize that, the medical system in this country was a medical dictatorship, an undercover one. And that's what the founding father, Benjamin Rush, warned our country about. It needs to be in the Constitution. And how do we get it there? We have to mobilize as a grassroots, get our people into government. We're literally now, we the people are in our own government for the first time in how many presidents? So I feel like we are just all so fortunate, and we can all celebrate together. And thank God I got the experience of being a race, because it's that, has taught me that how precious our freedoms are.
Yeah.
You just won that, Layla. You were a big part of that just today. Everyone can be really proud of everything we've accomplished together.
That's right.
I think sometimes when we go through really hard times in our lives, it takes a little bit of time, but then we look back and we realize, that was maybe the best thing that could have ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it levels up your soul. And I also feel like God gives you that challenge to give you an opportunity to level up your soul. And you're either going to take it as an opportunity and say, okay, I accept the challenge, or you're going to hide into a little closet and, wish that you weren't alive. And who knows, maybe you come back the next life and still have to experience something crazy to level up your soul. But whatever it is, we should always know that there is another side. The other side is shiny and beautiful. You just got to weather the storm.
That's beautiful and wise, and I think you're absolutely right. That is the nature of being a spiritual being, having a human experience here. It sounds like a trope or a cliche, but I think you're right. That's what it's about. And I'm so happy I had you guys, because also without community, you can't do this stuff sometimes. You can't succeed. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the support that you guys have given us, and everyone else out there has supported our work,
Well, thank you again for coming on and spending your time with us, and thank you for taking the hits for the team. Really appreciate you and admire you and respect you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It's a great honor. Love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
Layla. Yeah.
Love you.